Good evening, Mark Meckler here, and I am your host tonight. I'm the host of the BattleCry, and you probably missed me over the last couple of weeks, didn't you? I miss you for sure. I wasn't here last week. I wasn't here the week before. All kinds of stuff going on, right? But last week I was away. I was at Front Sight Firearms Training Academy with Rick Green. We were doing a constitutional defense course, learning to shoot. I already know how to shoot, but learning how to shoot well. We'll talk more about that later. Learning about the Constitution. I can always learn more about the Constitution from my brother from another mother, Rick Green. So like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that's why I wasn't here last week. So I apologize. Hopefully you caught me on Rick Green's front porch, which was live from Front Sight. We had a good time. If you didn't see it, go back and check it out. Of course, today is Memorial Day, and Memorial Day would not be complete without our new t-shirt. So this is what we call the pledge t-shirt. You can see the COS logo here on the front. On the side, it's got the American flag. So that's pretty cool. It's a good looking, good fit. I like the cut on these new t-shirts. Producer G, I think he has a shot of the shirt he can put up for you. So that's the back side of the shirt. That's in my gym. You can see I have the old COS hat on, and the back is a flag with the Pledge of Allegiance on it. It's kind of a distressed style look. I love this shirt. This is my new favorite shirt. You know why I love this shirt so much? It's particularly appropriate on Memorial Day. I love saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I grew up saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm really proud to be an American. It's one of the things that I am most proud of. What an incredible blessing to be born here in the United States of America, of all places in the world. One of the things that's so interesting, you hear all these woke, crazy people talking about how much they hate the United States of America, right? About all the things that they say are wrong with it. Most of it not even true, right? But they're just constantly attacking it. And then if you ask them genuinely, if you could get them to say something genuine, where would you rather live, here or anywhere else in the world? They choose here. I mean, you know it because they actually live here, right? And so they choose to live here because it is the greatest place on earth. This is the greatest country in the entire scope of world history. That's a broad claim, right? A bold claim. But the reality is we were given by our Creator free will. And we are so blessed that our founders created a government based on the idea of self-governance, a place where we can actually live out the idea of free will. We're actually free in America to make good choices or bad choices. That's our choice. That's what free will is all about. It's not about the government telling us what to do. It's not about the nanny state taking care of us from cradle to grave. It's about an exercise of free will. And one of the exercises of free will in the United States of America is to sign up for the U.S. military. I didn't do that. It's actually one of the few regrets in my life. I honestly never even thought about it. Growing up, I wasn't really from a military family. I didn't really have any friends that went into the military, hadn't had family served in the military. But when I got married, I got the history, right? Because my wife's dad had served in the United States Army infantry. He had served in Europe during World War II. His infantry battalion, he was a rifleman, was famous for firing the last shot of World War II. He was actually in Germany on the front lines fighting. He had a Purple Heart, he had a Bronze Star, a bunch of other ribbons and medals. I used to try to get him to talk. His name was John. I used to try to get John to talk about his experiences in the military, and he never really wanted to. And when Memorial Day would roll around like we're having right now, I would especially want to have these conversations because I know, like right here, I know, and right here, I know that men and women have been willing to give their lives, give everything, sign on the dotted line in blood that they will give everything to defend this country, to defend our Constitution. And a lot of them have given those lives. And that's really what Memorial Day is all about. And I'm afraid sometimes, like if you watch television, we forget that. Right? Memorial Day is a time for barbecues, a time for pool parties, excuse me, a time for sporting events. It's actually really a time to think and to pray and to remember, to think about those who have been willing to step up and sign on the dotted line. Most of you know my son is a United States Marine. He's out of the Corps now. Thank God he came out safely. But a lot of folks didn't. They were willing to step up. It's time to remember those people, to think about those people. It's time to pray for their souls, and it's time to pray for their families. Because, well, for somebody like me, a Memorial Day is a day to remember. It's just a day maybe to, have family over, hang out. It's a day off from work tomorrow. For them, it's a painful day. It's a memory of the person missing, the person gone, the person who gave all. It's important that we treat Memorial Day for the reason it was created, which is a somber remembrance of those who didn't make it home. When I used to ask my father-in-law about what it was like in World War II, I wanted to hear the stories of being on the front lines because I wanted to be able to pass those stories on to my kids. He would never tell me about it. And in the end, when I finally pushed him too far, he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "I've seen things that no man should see. That's enough. That's it. I know what he saw. You know what he saw. He saw his buddies fall in combat. He saw unspeakable horrors. Who knows what he had to do? I still don't even know why he got the Bronze Star with the Valor device. He got a Bronze Star. He did something heroic, but he wouldn't talk about it. He told me once that the men who didn't come home were the heroes, that he wasn't a hero. That's what Memorial Day is about. The folks that did not come home. And we should never forget that. And when you have these woke idiots going crazy in the streets, burning the streets like we've seen in Portland or San Francisco or Oakland or New York, or like we've seen all over the country, Kenosha, Wisconsin, they have no concept of that, no care for that. They would have probably said it was some kind of colonialist action. We're the only country that has gone out on a large scale, on an international scale, and spilled our blood and treasure for the freedom of others, for the freedom of Europe, not for our own freedom. That was for Europe's freedom. The United States could have just closed the gates, right? And we didn't. We went out and we fought a world war. We spilled our own blood and treasure so that others might be free, so that we could be the beacon of freedom and the beacon of hope. We were willing to do that. And when I say we, I want to be really clear, not me. I don't deserve those accolades. It's the men and women that were willing to actually go and do the fighting. And today, what are we doing with that? I think we're throwing it away. I'm going to skip around a little bit here in my topics. I want to go to Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris gave a speech to the Naval Academy. And to say it was inane is an overstatement. I don't understand what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden think they're doing with the United States military, but they're trying to turn it into some sort of social experiment instead of a military. You know what a military is really for primarily? And Kamala Harris was talking to the Naval Academy, right? So the Marines are part of the Navy as far as the department. So she's talking to Marines and naval officers, and she was talking about solar power. Do you actually think that these folks give a damn about solar power? The Marines, the Navy, what they're about, I'm going to just be blunt, is breaking stuff and killing people. And the threat of breaking stuff and killing people. And that's what keeps us safe all over the world. Now, I know there are other missions that they do, and they do rescue missions and they do humanitarian missions. And I'm glad for all that stuff. But at its core, at the very center, at that kernel in the very middle, is the mission of breaking things and killing people. That's why we have a military. So the idea that the military cares about solar power, and she asked just the most inane question. She said, she was asking about solar power, and she said, do you think that a Marine would rather carry batteries or a solar panel? 20 pounds of batteries or a solar panel? The stupidity of the question. By the way, if you carry a solar panel, you have to carry batteries also. Like a solar panel by itself doesn't do anything. The solar panel has to put batteries into something that is charging. So she obviously doesn't even have the most minimal understanding of the technology. And the reality is, for the most part, that's battery technology today is not good enough to allow us to power a lot of what we need to power out there in the field for our Marines. And the reality is, what a Marine wants, oh, by the way, and she said she would rather carry the solar panel. Look, women have served in our armed forces for over 100 years, honorably. And I understand that it's recently women are serving in combat units. I, by the way, am opposed to women serving in combat units. My standard would be Mad Dog Mattis's standard, which is simply this: does it increase our warfighting capability? The answer is no. It does not increase our warfighting capability. And so but I know women serve in these units now, and it's fine. That's the way it is. But the reality is, Focusing on that is stupidity. It's not focusing on whether we're an effective warfighting machine. Solar power has nothing to do with being an effective warfighting machine. Taking our military and trying to turn our military into a woke experiment. Have you guys seen the CIA commercial that came out recently talking about, I don't know, transgenderism and LGBT and all this other stuff? Seriously? Do you know what the Chinese, our geopolitical foe, or the Russians, or the Islamo-fascists are all thinking right now? Here's what they're thinking. Awesome. Awesome. This is what the U.S. is focused on. This is what their military is focused on. You know what the Russian military and the Chinese military and the Islamo-fascists are focused on? What they're focused on is breaking things and killing people. That's what their militaries are focused on. What you should be. There was a video circulating recently showing these woke recruiting commercials from the United States military talking about men and showing men actually in high heels, and then a Russian military recruiting commercial showing some badass Russian soldiers kicking some butt. Like, you watch those two videos, it makes you think the Russians are going to eat our lunch. This is bad stuff. Our military is not meant to be a social experiment. Right. And this dishonors the men and women that we're supposed to be remembering on Memorial Day. They didn't go in the military to be woke. They didn't go in the military to practice diversity. They went in the military to become part of a war fighting machine. That's what the military is for. And this woke stuff and trying to turn our military into something woke is ruining our military. And it is dishonoring the men and women of the United States military who gave everything. The men and women that we need to be remembering now, today, as we celebrate Memorial Day. So actually, what I'd like to do, if you guys will join me, is just literally hats off, moment of silence for the men and women in our U.S. military who gave all. Yeah, I know that might seem a little bit awkward in the middle of a Facebook Live to do a moment of silence. It's the least we can do, right? I hope you'll remember that. I hope tomorrow, if you have the day off and maybe you're out celebrating with the family, instead of just celebrating, that you'll gather the family around, maybe hold hands and say a prayer for the men and women who didn't come home, and a prayer for their families and the generations that came after them that will always have that hole in that family tree, somebody that didn't live out their full life because they gave all in honor of the United States of America. It's important that we remember what Memorial Day is about. It's not barbecues and hot dogs and end of summer. It's about those who gave all. All right. Last week, I told you I wasn't here. Hopefully you guys noticed that and you missed me. I did show up, though. If you were watching the BattleCry last week and you hung around long enough to see Rick Green's front porch, Sunday night front porch, which, by the way, you always should because it's so awesome and Rick is so awesome, then you caught me on the front porch. We were sitting on a bench, and we actually weren't on the front porch at Rick Green's house. We were sitting on a bench looking out at the mountains from Front Sight in Pahrump, Nevada. Now, if you're not familiar with Front Sight, you should be, and you can check them out at frontsight.com. Front Sight is a place where you can go to get trained in firearms usage. And I can't speak highly enough about what I learned. I did their 4-day defensive gun training out there. And here's what I realized. Okay. Number one, I realized I've been shooting my whole life. So I'm pretty comfortable with a firearm. I wear one every day. I carry it with me everywhere I go. By the way, Texas passed constitutional carry, waiting for the governor's signature. So I will just continue to carry my firearm. I travel with it where I can. Here's what I realized, though. I know how to shoot, but I'm not very good. Now, that's something hard to admit, right? When you've been shooting a long time, I put thousands of rounds downrange. But the reality is the way Front Sight trains you is for real life. It's really extraordinary. They put you under pressure. You're going to learn the techniques. You are going to drill over and over and over hundreds of rounds downrange. You're going to draw from your holster. You're going to shoot from a ready position. They're going to put you through a situation house, right? A sim house where you actually get to feel what it feels like to try to clear a house. I'll tell you, it's crazy. It's hairy. It's stressful. It's difficult. They're going to test your accuracy. They're going to test your speed. They're going to test your ability to fix your handgun in the event of a jam. Those things happen in real life. This is what it's really about. If you're going to be able to use a handgun to defend yourself appropriately, accurately, under pressure, at 150 patriots from all across the country, 30 states from COS represented there. We came together, we trained together, we ate together. In the evenings, we trained on the Constitution together with Rick Green. It was incredible. My favorite night of all, the highlight for the whole thing, we had a night where everybody stood up, introduced themselves, told a little bit of their story. Took a couple of hours. Man, it was emotional for me. Because you guys who were there, you know what it felt like in that room. That's a family. It's a big family, a family that spanned 30 states. We had people from Alaska. We had a huge team from New Jersey. We had people from Oklahoma. We had people from all over the country, Rhode Island. I mean, you name it. We had people from 30 states. It was fantastic. The best part, the training was great, firearms training. The constitutional training was incredible, sort of an extension of biblical citizenship, focus on the Second Amendment. Rick Green, as always, teaches me something, taught everybody a lot. We answered a lot of questions, had a lot of fun. Number one thing for me was being there with the family. At one point, we asked everybody, do you want to do this again? Would you be willing to come back if we held another one? 100% of the people raised their hands. Really cool to see that. So we're going to do that again in November. We haven't picked the exact date, but we're planning to go back in November. If you didn't make it, our goal is to bring 450 patriots, COS patriots from all over the country to go back, get trained in firearms, get trained in the Constitution, become competent with your weapons. I got a family membership, a lifetime family membership. Me and Patty and the kids and their significant others are all going to be going back to Front Sight. You should join us too. So look for that next November. We're going to be doing it again. All right, let's talk about the state of play for convention of states right now. It's actually really good. Coming to the end of the legislative session, their legislature is still in. So here's what we got going on. Over the last couple of weeks in Wisconsin, in South Carolina, in North Carolina, we passed Wisconsin Assembly, which is the equivalent of their House, North Carolina House, South Carolina House. Exciting stuff. Last week in Nebraska, through some procedural wrangling, incredible. We were able to, thanks to our regional director, Dave Schneider, thanks to our incredible sponsor, Senator Halloran, we were able to bust it out of a committee. We've been stuck in that committee for 4 years. So amazing. Came out of committee, the session ended, but because it came out before the end of session, the way it works in Nebraska is when they go back into session, we'll be right there and they'll be ready for a floor vote. I think we're going to get it done in Nebraska very early, beginning of next year. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Also last week, I almost forgot, I was in the Ohio State House. So I came back from Front Sight. I had literally 12 hours at home. Kim was here for 12 hours, repacked, went to Ohio, got to hang out with a bunch of great patriots in the Ohio State House, which was amazing. So I've watched this Ohio team work over the last 4 years. Mike Mowry, an incredible grassroots leader there, very soft-spoken guy, building up the grassroots. Over 88,000 people signed up. We had about a couple hundred, 150, 200 people there in the atrium of the legislature. Legislators were blown away. They could hear us all over the building. They all knew exactly what was going on. We have two fantastic sponsors. We have Senate President Huffman came out to talk about his support for Convention of States. Looks very good in Ohio. They're fighting their way through kind of a budget mess. We'll be up after the budget mess. But you guys, if you're in Ohio and you're not signed up, go to conventionofstates.com, sign the petition, click on the Take Action tab at the top, and get involved. Become a district captain. Ohio, I would say, one of the most active teams in the United States of America, shooting for 2 district captains per district. I love those guys in Ohio. They're extraordinary. Thank you guys for giving me such a welcome and turning out so well there in the Ohio State House. All right, so that's what's going on in COS. I'm actually going to be home this week, which is really cool. I'm very excited to be home. I got my son and his girlfriend coming into town. We're going to have a good time hanging out together, but we're going to be working all week too. If you need anything from me, you know where to get me. Let's go to Q&A. That is my favorite part. All right, here we go. Let's see. We got a whole bunch of questions and comments here. Rebecca Cowell says, remembering the soldiers who lost their lives to keep us free. So important that we think of it that way, Rebecca. I appreciate that They gave their lives so that we and others all over the world could be free, to defeat Imperial Japan, to defeat Nazism, to defeat communist Russia. That's what they gave their lives for, so that you and I could be free. And we have a responsibility to remember that and to pass that on to our children. Robin Toller says, I salute our soldiers and our flag. USA strong, freedom rings. Robin, you need to get one of these shirts. Producer G, can you throw the shirt up again? If you go to conventionofstates.com/store, that's conventionofstates.com/store, you can get this cool new pledge shirt. You can see the front of it here. This is what's on one sleeve. It's just an American flag. On the back is an American flag that you're seeing there. That was me in the gym. Across the back, you see a pledge flag. So it's a flag with the language of the Pledge of Allegiance in it. Get yours today. I think you need one, Robin. All right. Gary Pill says, I'm a U.S. Marine serving 1974-78, and my oath still stands. Gary, I think this is something that a lot of folks who have never been in the military don't understand. I've heard this from a lot of men like you, a lot of women like you who've served in the military. They take the oath. That oath does not go away just because they're no longer serving, right? They still believe in the oath. They still intend to fulfill the oath. That's why a lot of veterans are involved in Convention of States, because taking that oath, they take the oath to the United States Constitution to defend her against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The oath still stands. So you can see Gary served 74-78. Thank you for your service, sir. Appreciate it. And his oath still stands. If you're a vet, I know you know exactly what he's talking about. Let's see. Lady Ellen M. Lowe says, my dad fought in World War II with General Patton in the 3rd Army Division Company Charlie. They invaded the beaches of Normandy. Man, I literally get goosebumps just reading that. Can you imagine what that must have been like? And these were young people, generally speaking, 18, 19, 20 years old, some of them even younger, right? Fake papers to sign up early. Can you imagine storming the beaches of Normandy? So many didn't make it that day. So many died in the water getting off those landing craft. So many died on the beaches, pinned down by gunfire. So many young men saw their friends and compatriots get killed on the beaches there at Normandy, and yet so many kept going. So it's important that we remember men like Lady Ellen M. Lowe's dad, who fought, who landed on the beach in Normandy, who was willing to give all, and who remembered so many people who did give all. Thanks for sharing that story with us. Let's see. Reese Brinkman says, how can we balance our government back into its rightful position? Reese, the only way I know, literally the only way, is Convention of States. Now, I want to be really clear. I still think we need to participate in elections. I still think we need to fix our election system. I still think we need to do everything we can to find the best people we can to put into office. That's our baseline responsibility as citizens, right? You guys know that. And by the way, sometimes that means, and this is important, you. It means you run. And I recommend you do that. Run for school board, run for city council. It's not as hard as you think. If you go to Rick Green, if you go to his Patriot Academy site or constitutioncoach.com site, he's got modules on how to run for office. You can look at those, decide whether you want to run. You should run. If you're here, you're the kind of person that we need. So I would tell you, Reese, run for office. That's one thing. But the big thing is Convention of States. That's what's going to allow us to take the power away from the federal government and give it back to the American people through their states. That's really what we need to do. Edna Kruger says, do you think Nebraska will pass the resolution soon? Edna, not soon. In other words, this session is over, but it'll be first thing next session. So January of next year, we're lined up for a quick passage in Nebraska. Garrett Humbertson says, our producer G says, Mark White, can you come to Hawaii in mid or late October for a town hall event? We'd love to have you in the islands. Mark, you know I'm always tempted to come to the islands. Of course I'm tempted to come to the islands. That has to be run like all of my travel through the fantastic, amazing, I don't even know. Are there enough adjectives to describe her? Rita Peters, formerly Rita Dunaway. Rita Peters runs all of our legislative stuff. She controls my calendar. So get with her and we'll try to arrange something. All right. Rachel Lynn Moore says, the program at Front Sight was incredible, and being with COS people made it even better. Thanks to Mark, Rick, and the Front Sight team for an awesome experience. Rachel, so cool that you were there. I didn't get to meet everybody personally. I met a lot of people, but it was so cool to hang out with everybody. I don't even remember everybody's names that I met, but I met a lot of people because I was training. I didn't get to cruise around as much as I would have liked. Like I would have actually liked to not be on the range and to get to go from range to range and just hang out with people. Probably do more of that next time. But yeah, Rach, it was so cool. Hope to see you next time. Okay, Sherry Fritz said, "Why do you think cities tend to be blue even in red states?" You know, this is a debate that goes all the way back to the founding. There was a big debate about whether or not cities were good or bad. Jefferson was anti-city. He was an anti-urbanist. The Hamiltonian ideal is more urban industrialism. Jefferson said basically that everything good, all the ethics and the morals and the hard work qualities and all the things that you want people to know comes from living in the country, from working on a farm, stuff like that. And that the cities were a repository for pestilence and disease and bad habits and vices that seems to be playing itself out in our country. I think the reason, I'm just now guessing, excuse me, the reason is that people are not meant to live that close together. And when you pack people that close together, a lot of bad things happen. I mean, you get crime, you get disease. We see that the pandemic ran wild in New York City and the other cities with higher urban density. You have sanitation problems, but I also think it creates sort of a moral disease and a moral decay. I don't think people are meant to be packed that closely together. And then what happens when you pack people that closely together? They get political power because you've got a lot of people in one place. Anytime people have too much political power, they'll start voting themselves money from the treasury. They'll vote themselves more and more control. That's just a recipe for disaster. So I think generally dense urban areas are a problem for the United States of America. It's better if we spread out. Notice that the left is against spreading out, right? They act like we don't have enough space in America. Try driving across the country sometime. All right, here's our last question for the night. Steve Burke says, "I'd love to know more about the trip to Front Sight and how I can participate in the next one." All right, so I'll close out with this. Let's talk a little bit about Front Sight. Front Sight is America's premier firearms training academy. It's perched sort of on a bluff, 500 acres in the Nevada desert. It's hot in the summer, so I don't recommend the summer. They close down, I think, during the very heat of the summer, but it can be really hot out there as you get into June and July. We're expecting hot when we were there. It was actually kind of cold and then it warmed up, but it's kind of Spartan. I don't know how many ranges. I think there are probably 40, 50 ranges out there. Beautiful ranges, great facilities. On the newer areas, each range has a sim house in between the ranges where you actually can go and shoot your firearm inside a simulated situation, inside a simulated house. Plus, you got a range with about 20, 25 lanes in it. So you can get 25 to 50 people per range. They have long distance rifle ranges. There's a classroom. That classroom seats over 450 people. I'd love to pack it for the next one. They do martial arts training out there. They do defensive handgun. They do long range rifle training. They do AR training. Anything you could imagine. If it involves firearms, they'll train people on it. They even teach people how to be gunsmiths out there. And so there is just so much to do. But I'll be frank with you, it's serious. Like, it's not easy. You work, you drill, you get out there at 8 in the morning, you're on the range until 5 o'clock at night, take about an hour lunch break, but you're working the whole time. They're talking to you, they're teaching you, you're dry practicing, you're shooting rounds, you're drilling, you're doing it very repetitively because you want to get that muscle motion, right? You want to be able to do it without thinking. Really amazing, solid training. Again, you can look up Front Sight online. You'll find them. You get kind of the lowdown on all the training. Rick Green does trips there year round. In fact, I think he's there right now. He left from where I was at, went and taught at a homeschool conference, and then back to Front Sight. He's out there about 10 days a month, bringing people through and helping people to get trained. I think he has about 250 with him on this current trip that he's got going out there. That's coming. I think it's actually, I think he's there right now as we speak. So you can get there earlier, but we will do it again in November. We'll announce that. I'm not sure exactly when, but as soon as we can. Making arrangements now. We decided we're probably going to do that twice a year. So you're going to get a chance to go do Constitution training, quality firearms training, Front Sight in Nevada. The place itself, very affordable. You know, you got to fly to get there or drive to get there. Put yourself up in a hotel or an Airbnb. I stayed just at a Holiday Inn in town, pretty reasonably priced. So get there, get it done, get your constitutional training, get your Second Amendment training, learn how to put the Second Amendment into use. right? Because that's what we're all about. We're about self-governance. That means we know how to take care of ourselves. We're willing to engage. We're willing to be in the fight. All of you, I know who you are. You are warriors at heart, right? You guys are ready to fight for the United States of America, fighting at the ballot box, fighting to call a convention of states, and you're prepared to defend your family and your country. Man, I love everything about you guys. Hope that you'll remember to pray this Memorial Day. Think about the families that lost everything. Think about the people that gave everything. That's what Memorial Day is all about. By being involved in Convention of States, you honor those who failed to give us freedom. So go to conventionofstates.com, sign the petition if you haven't already done it. Go to the top, click the Take Action tab. And before we close, one more pitch. This is our new pledge shirt. I love this thing. Flag on the sleeve, COS logo right here. Producer G, when we go out, he can put up, this is the picture of me wearing it in the gym. You can see the flag on the back with the Pledge of Allegiance. This is my new favorite shirt. I actually got it in a couple of colors. Very cool. It's super soft. I really like the fabric, really like the fit. High quality, made in America, just for you guys. We love you guys. God bless you. We'll see you next